Hey everyone, welcome to another rambling video under my Ramble playlist. This video will not have any visuals, so you can just listen as you are cleaning, as you are doing your work. Just treat this like a podcast. I'm not sure if I want to leave this or if I want to stick with this format for these rambling videos because it definitely saves storage space, and normally these kind of videos don't have much structure, although later on it kind of does. Okay, I feel like I do a lot of channel updates, but I want to use other things to record besides my laptop lately. Most of my videos are when I use my laptop to record, or just recently my most recent video was my little food vlog, and that's where I use my phone. But I do not want to use my phone for all my videos. I mean, I'll do it for some clips and whatnot. It's because a phone is like multifunctional and it can be used for other things as well. So I am going to look into using my old cameras from high school, early college, and get memory cards for those so I can have a separate vlogging camera, if anything. So there's like more variety in my videos. If I become more familiar with the devices and the software, I may or may not get a tripod. So I'll let you know how that goes, and let's get into today's topic. Today's topic is identity crisis. Let's first begin with dissecting or dissecting the word or the phrase itself. So, identity. According to Google, identity is the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. So, to repeat, identity is the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. Oftentimes, we associate our identity with our current job or career, or more like, I guess more commonly, we associate our identity with our ethnicity, our race, or our culture. But there is so much more that goes into an identity, because you are more than just your race. You are more than just your job or career. It's just like one of the easiest things to like tell people. Like, we all want to kind of like form like this person or like be someone who we are proud to be. We want to identify as something, I don't know, like to make things, I guess, quote unquote easy. What I mean, some people might identify as being athletic or being smart, which are essentially adjectives, but we all want to have some sort of identity or identify as something. And I feel like nowadays, apart from like the obvious, like as to which gender you prefer to identify as, or what race or culture or ethnicity, people often associate themselves with like their careers or their jobs. My situation is a little bit different. What is a crisis? A crisis is a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. There are many different types of crises. An obvious one would be like this current pandemic, an economic crisis. The crisis I am talking about is more psychological, a lot more mental. You can think of it as a quarter life crisis, especially among my friends, because we are getting to that age. It's like we don't have things figured out, but that is okay. Today, I am going to talk about two different things that I related heavily to my identity, or so the two factors, two things include sleep and weight, and I often associated my identity with sleep and weight. The reason why I'm in a crisis at the moment is because I have changed my way, both physically and mentally, on those two things. The topic of sleep came up when I woke up this morning around 6:30 a.m. and I was like, who am I? Like, it's normally not like this. Okay, I don't know why, but I always identified myself as someone who slept late, regardless of what time I had to wake up in the morning. How I define sleeping late is pretty much sleeping after a time when most people would go to bed. Normally, I would sleep at 3 a.m., even if I had to wake up early the next day. When I was working, I would sleep from like 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. and I was fine. But then I guess I would take a nap sometime in the day. But either way, I always identified as a late sleeper. And nowadays, I sleep close to midnight or even before. Maybe a little bit after midnight, but around that time. And I feel like that's a time when a lot of people sleep. And it just feels really weird to be sleeping, I guess, so early. So when I woke up this morning, I'm like, who am I? Like, it was just bizarre to be, I don't know, I guess to be well rested. I'm not sure why I always identified myself as being sleep deprived. I guess I always thought it was very cool to be, I don't know, to get little sleep or to run on very little sleep. I mentioned this in my fixing my sleeping schedule video as well, but I just thought like, wow, I still have so much energy even though I slept so little. I don't know, I just thought that just made up my identity. And I did not realize how important sleep was. And like I mentioned, sleep is not optional. I do not believe in a normal sleeping schedule as long as you get enough sleep and that you are well rested for the day. Having enough sleep has made me feel better mentally and physically. I am very happy that I've gotten into the habit of sleeping earlier and waking up earlier, so I don't overthink. Like, I have an easier time knocking out, and sleep relaxes me. I mean, it should relax everyone, and I'm just a lot better for the next day. So how this has helped me is I overthink less, because I think when I stayed up late, I just tend to overthink a lot more, just because like physically it's quieter. But I think I always associated my late night thoughts with overthinking, or it just became a habit to overthink at night. But now I just instantly go to bed. Okay, maybe not super instantly, but I don't overthink as much as I did before. Remember, there is nothing wrong with sleeping later, especially if your work allows for it, especially if you work swing or graveyard shift, swing night graveyard, because it really depends on how your work schedule is. It's just that it's important to be well rested. And I guess being well rested was not part of my identity. And now that I am well rested, I'm like, who am I? Because I always identified as being sleep deprived and not well rested. I went to the doctor's office the other day, or I had a doctor appointment, and as always, they would check my weight. Normally, I would choose not to eat or drink water before I went to the doctor's, or I would not eat until after my appointment. However, since I've gotten so used to eating breakfast on a daily basis, I ate breakfast, and as always, I drink water. Even when I went into the doctor's office, when I checked my weight, my bladder was actually full, or I needed to pee. But to me, what was more important was getting the doctor's appointment over with, as opposed to essentially losing a couple of pounds on the scale. And then I thought, who am I? Like, I think obsessing over weight, like over my weight, has become so much part, or I think weight obsession has become part of my identity, to the point that it's weird when I'm not obsessing over it. Because for the first time in like forever, I did not care that the scale, or that the number went up and was a lot higher than expected. Actually, not that much higher, but just higher than expected. And normally I would beat myself up about it. I don't know, I was just so used to punishing myself for gaining weight, or being super happy for losing weight, and I let my life revolve around weight, which is not good at all, because it was, I don't know, like, I feel like when I run out of things to talk about with certain people, I end up just talking about my weight, and without realizing it, I think I influenced other people to obsess about their weight, and that's not good at all, to obsess over your weight. Like, yes, it is good to be healthy and to strive to be healthy, but not to always worry about the number on the scale. I think I mentioned this in my weight video. No, I did mention it in my weight video, that I became obsessed with weight beginning in 5th grade, when I was the heaviest person in my class. I didn't realize how overly obsessed I became, but I think it's also due to the fact that I am also surrounded by people who obsess about their weight as well, even though they're relatively healthy, or people who would comment on my weight sometimes. And it was, I don't know why, I don't know, I was just so obsessed. And now that I'm no longer obsessed with my weight, okay, actually, so my friend got me a digital scale, which I was really, really, really happy for, just so you know. Like, I always wanted a digital scale, and it's on low battery right now, but I don't feel the desire to change it, because normally I would feel the desire to do so, to change the battery so I can know how much I weigh every single day. But I feel like I'm not like that anymore, and I don't really care, like, if the number changes by like 0.5 or so. What I do care about is if I can fit in my clothes or not, and how I feel too. And if people want to comment on my appearance, well, that's their problem. They don't need to check me out, right? Just to reiterate, if you want to know more about my relationship with weight, there is a separate video on that in my Love Yourself series, and it began, in 5th grade when I was the heaviest in the class. I mentioned that in the video. Another thing to point out as well, and to emphasize, your weight should not make or break your day. It's just a number. And I'm happy. I'm still a work in progress, but I'm happy that I'm not letting my weight define how my day goes. Like, I mean, yeah, I would be super happy. It's like, oh, I lost a few pounds. But then I'd be so sad or so mad or just like so emotional because I gained a few pounds. But just like a lot of people said, it doesn't really matter as long as you are healthy. Like, sometimes I would tell people about my weight, and then someone told me that, I shouldn't have to conform to society's standards of beauty. And then when I told someone, like, that this is the heaviest I've ever been, they're like, it doesn't matter and I still look fine. So let me say this again. Your weight should not make or break your day. It's just a number on the scale. It is just a guideline. This ended up having a lot more structure than expected and ended up being a lot longer than I expected because I was just going to talk this out about my weight and sleep, and then I realized I could just section it out. So this will be placed under My Life, My Story playlist instead of the rambling one. I have changed for the better, and so maybe identity crisis isn't the best way to put this, but it is still an identity crisis because I always identified as being sleep deprived or running on very little sleep. Now I am well rested and I get enough sleep. I used to be weight obsessed, and now I'm no longer obsessed. So I have definitely changed for the better. And it's just weird. So like right now I'm not used to this. Like I'm not used to being well rested and not obsessed with my weight. So that's why I consider this an identity crisis. So thank you so much for watching. I don't know if I'll keep this format because I realize even though like in most of my videos I just talk, I do have some hand gestures, and I am doing some hand gestures right now because it makes things easier like to speak. So we'll see what happens after this, but I hope you enjoyed listening and have an amazing day. Thank you again for watching.